I have been watching and studying some of the moves happening around these utility-based projects in this space because, again, we are getting closer to regulations. Hopefully, we can get closer to proper regulations that don't benefit the big banks because that's the big issue happening right now. But during this time, obviously, yes, price action is a little bit rough on most altcoins. XDC is, a little bit more concerning simply because we are trading at a fresh low since going all the way back here to November of 2024. I'm not extremely concerned about this because I do think that XDC has been oversold for quite some time. We're still trailing right around the lower end on RSI, going all the way back here to like September and August of 2024. This is typically where you would start to see a lot of people panic on XDC or become extremely negative. So I'm expecting that to be in the comments as well. Like a lot of people will say like, oh, XDC is down at this price point, which is kind of exactly where we want to see sentiment anyways, because every single time that we've seen RSI around this area, it typically means that we are close to a major bottom. This was the same going all the way back to 2022. It was the same going all the way back to 2024 into 2025. So I'm expecting this to be the same exact thing here where, we are in this major downtrend. It kind of seems like it's never ending. And then we start to see that, big spike where the life comes back into XDC. We possibly have a retest and then we have that continuation to the upside. Now, with that in mind, I don't want to focus too much on price action in this video because that's not the major focus of this video. In fact, I want to talk about some of the recent moves that have been being made around XDC. So right off the rip, I want to start off with this move with Anchorage Digital. So Anchorage Digital, this is essentially like an institutional platform. So this is expanding institutional access to the XDC ecosystem. This is very good. It's custody around XDC as well for institutional clients. And this is just a great update to expand institutional access and exposure for XDC. Now, on top of this, we do have a lot of additional names being added to the Anchorage platform alongside XDC, like HBAR, for example. But institutional access itself and institutional adoption around a lot of these utility-based projects has been starting to heat up, and it's been happening for well over a year now. But Anchorage, I have been focused on because just recently, back in December, Hedera got added to Anchorage. And one thing that I have been noticing is all of the connections between a lot of these utility-based projects like XDC, XRP, XLM, and even HBAR. And yes, again, when we look at almost all of these projects, if we're looking at this on the weekly, XRP is not that exciting. XLM is definitely not that exciting either. HBAR also not that exciting. Almost all of these projects, almost every single altcoin is trailing around the bottom level of RSI, which is typically where you would see peak negativity. Everyone is getting upset. Price action sucks. But again, we'll be at the top here for RSI again as well, and price action will be, showing us a new fresh high, potentially new all-time highs, price discovery, etc. And during that time, no one's going to even think about these lows anymore. And I do expect that to happen this year. But the main thing that I am looking at for this year is, of course, all of the connections between these projects, because these are utility-based networks that are powerhouses around certain use cases. It goes all the way back to June when I was noticing this as well with Ubix. So Ubix is a stablecoin clearing platform. They partnered up with Hedera. They also partnered up with XDC, and there's connections back to Axler with, of course, Ripple, because there's links between Paxos and Ripple. Not too sure if this is still in place today. I made a video regarding Axler and updated you guys. I'm not that bullish on Axler anymore because of the recent move from the team, but this is more exposure to a lot of these utility-based networks through a name like Ubix. Now, when we go back in time to a few other players, we go back to Archix. So Archix is one of the most common names that I look at because this is one that's been around for a while. They've been doing incredibly well. And there's so many networks tied back to Archix. We know HBAR, XRP, XDC, Algo, and there's so many other ones. But, this is something that I've been noticing where we see, specific assets being tapped in and specific networks. I've always said that this is not going to be a game of it's a one size fits all or just one specific network is going to succeed. No, it's going to be a wide range of digital assets. And yes, XDC is definitely one of them in my opinion. Now, also, if we go back here to November, XDC also got added to iTrust Capital. And yes, I had to plug it in. Yes, iTrust Capital is a sponsor of the channel. I'm a huge supporter of iTrust Capital. I was before I even got a sponsorship with them. I am paid by iTrust Capital, but that's not the main focus here. I have utilized this platform. I trust this platform. And yes, XDC is also on their platform. In fact, XRP, XLM, HBAR as well. Almost all of these utility-based projects are listed on iTrust Capital. So if you guys do want to go check out iTrust Capital, there's going to be a link down in the description below as well as in the comments below. But on top of that, let's go over here real quick to Franklin Templeton. So like I said, 2026 is going to be a big year for a lot of these utility-based networks. And the reason why is because 2026 is also going to be the year where we start to see increased institutional adoption. Almost every single major institutional player, like Franklin Templeton, for an example, is saying that 2026 is going to be an up year. And that's because they are noticing a lot more talk from major institutional clients and players just like themselves. Listen closely to the director of digital asset research at Franklin Templeton talking to Nate Garalshi on Prime Pod regarding this.
Our base case is that 2026 is going to be an up year. I think the things that give me confidence in that view and the things that I'll be looking for to see how they play out is continued momentum on the regulatory side. We had Genius Act, right? As an industry, we're still waiting on Clarity Act or the market structure bill. So seeing progress there, especially bipartisan support, and that eventually coming to fruition, that's something we're keenly focused on. And then I think another thing that's continues to really improve and be different this time around is the institutionalization of the asset class. So, just this week, we heard about another bank, kind of onboarding Bitcoin, PNC. And when we look at the full list, right, it's more and more, wirehouses and banks, and asset management firms embracing, this new asset class, allowing access, to this new asset class. And so, as those doors open up and as more people come through them, even with small allocations, right? Small allocations from, big numbers, really does move the needle here.
So yeah, I'm also noticing the same. I mean, listen, all of the announcements that we saw already this year, I mean, we're not even a full month into, the new year, but all of the discussions, all of the major updates that we've witnessed so far is all around increased institutional access and adoption for digital assets. It's only heating up more and more. Also, remember, Caroline D. Pham was recently on a podcast titled Quadrillions, where she mentioned that 2026 is the year of institutional adoption for crypto, digital assets, tokenization, and even blockchain infrastructure. By the end of 2026, crypto is going to look entirely different, in my opinion, because of what's happening. We are in a new age of crypto. It's no longer, the crypto market that we are used to seeing. No, this is changing completely. And I think anyone that's, not noticing this is going to miss out on the next phase of this market where, assets like XDC, XRP, XLM, HBAR, they start to see increased adoption from these big players. And we also start to see more volume and value moving onto these networks. It might not happen overnight and it might not even happen in the next 12 months. But I still think that the price action will happen within the next couple weeks and months ahead. But we're still going to see more and more involvement from the institutional players with these networks. And we're going to see a lot more announcements regarding it as well. But on top of this, Grayscale also mentioning that 2026 is the dawn of the institutional era. Yeah, everything's changing. Literally, everything is changing. JP Morgan analysts expect capital inflows into crypto markets to rise further in 2026 as institutional demand grows. And all of these networks are involved in the institutional side of things. They're all focused on it. For an example, XDC just partnered up with Zand Bank. We're pleased to announce that official Zand, UAE's AI-powered bank for the digital economy bridging TradFi and DeFi, has successfully integrated the XDC network. This collaboration enables corporate and institutional clients to access blockchain-powered payments and institutional-grade digital asset custody on XDC network infrastructure subject to regulatory approvals. The integration also supports innovation in commodity markets through Comtech Official, bringing transparency, efficiency, and programmability to gold trading. Built for enterprise adoption, transactions on XDC network are designed to align with ISO 20022 standards, supporting regulatory interoperability and future-proof financial infrastructure. And the significance of this announcement, it goes back to the connections here, right? This might not be between XDC and HBAR, but it's definitely between XDC and Ripple. Back in May of 2025, Ripple builds on Dubai regulatory license to announce Zanbank and Mamo as first blockchain-enabled payments clients in the UAE. Every single one of these utility-based networks have some sort of connection back to the other ones. This is a big thing to focus on. Now, on top of that, XDC also made another announcement back in November, which was scaling institutional adoption through stronger compliance infrastructure. This is Crystal Platform. Almost everything around these networks, we're starting to see more and more scaling for the institutional side, but also we're starting to see the capabilities around these networks being improved on to ensure that they are ready for institutional adoption at scale. That's a very big signal of what's to come. Yes, institutional adoption at scale is happening. It's coming. And it will most likely happen within the next, I would argue, it's probably already beginning. You know, we've been seeing some large institutional names jumping in. For an example, Stellar. We know Stellar just partnered up with US Bank back in November to test stablecoin issuance. They just recently updated this as well, so they are starting this trial. At the same exact time, we are also witnessing more and more adoption through other networks like Hedera, tokenizing with Georgia. This is a completely, new use case on Hedera. It's with a government as well. We also have been seeing increased adoption around Ripple with institutional clients. Hedera has been expanding for a while within key areas like Australia, for an example, with some major banks and central banks. I mean, it's only going to become a much bigger topic this year. I mean, these types of moves, they're becoming so common to the point where we just overlook them. But on top of that, we also have back in December, Hedera updating us with Onera. This is all based around institutional players. So institutions, banks, broker-dealers, asset managers, and beyond can now, move seamlessly between Hedera and other networks. This is just more access and exposure for Hedera. This is all based around tokenization, even, major payments, things like that. There's so much happening behind the scenes that if you blink, you will miss a lot. We also go back to April. I mean, this is another announcement with Hedera. This is institutional access and institutional tokenization on Hedera. Then Stellar, another big update with Elliptic. All of these are based around institutional oversight, access, adoption, and expansion. And XDC is not missing the party. In fact, XDC is right there at the forefront of all of this because they have been prepared for this moment. If we are thinking about 2026 being a huge year for institutional adoption and access for crypto to really become, a much bigger focus, then yes, these networks are going to see increased adoption. We're going to see a much bigger spotlight put on all of them. And this is at a time where almost every single one of these charts look completely slaughtered in terms of RSI. I mean, RSI is at the lowest points. I mean, think about it like this, right? Our RSI on XDC at the current level goes all the way back here to April of 2019. Guys, look at where the price action was back in April and, all the way throughout 2019 until it started to really break out. This is where you see a potential bottom forming. Watch for a floor to form. Don't just ape, blindly. Watch on the lower time frame structure for a floor to form. But I just feel as if going, into this year, give it until I would just give it till the end of quarter one. By the end of quarter one, a lot of these assets are going to be trading significantly higher. This is the year of institutional adoption. This is the year where we start to see institutional players moving on chain, just like Caroline is saying over here. She has worked in the financial space for a very long time. She was the previous acting CFTC chairman. She is aware of how these things are changing. She's been in those deep conversations with major players. We are starting to see more and more adoption happening. We're starting to see more and more expansion happening. And we're also starting to see a much bigger spotlight put on the utility side of crypto. That's the main thing. We are shifting from a hype and speculation driven market to a utility driven market. That's where XDC, XLM, XRP, HBAR, assets like them start to shine brighter than ever before. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.